It was a Friday night, the kind where existential tingling marinates nicely in the tepid broth of a bargain bin horror flick. I lay sprawled on my camp bed, half-heartedly absorbing the cinematic masterpiece flickering on the screen. Sleep, that fickle mistress, was flirting with me until I heard a weird sound coming from the basement. It sounded like a man gargling gravel while being attacked by a pack of angry Dougs. My heart skipped a drum beat, or maybe two. Who's counting? Alone in the hoose, obviously, because what's a good haunting without a healthy dose of isolation? Mummy was off playing bingo. We'd landed in this charmingly dilapidated house a few months back, thanks to an Instagram account promising cheap rentals with character. Turns out, character was code for structurally unsound and possibly haunted. I tried to reason with my rising panic. After all, what was the worst that could happen? A demonic entity demanding my holiday pay. Been there, done that, stole the t-shirt. Still, the current silence had taken on a decidedly sinister vibe, thick enough to spread on toast. I decided to investigate the basement purely for the sake of debunking the supernatural. I bravely ventured forth, armed with nothing but my wit and a rapidly depleting supply of common sense. The hallway light, sensing my trepidation, decided to join the fun and began flickering like a disco ball in a library. A gust of cold air, the kind that is often mentioned in spooky stories, rushed past me from behind. It felt like someone breathing down my jumper. I spun around, expecting to see a malevolent spirit, but alas, no one was there. However, on the floor, catching the dim light like a discarded sequin at a vampire convention, was a pitcher covered in tomato ketchup. Hard to tell under a 40-watt bulb. Another chill, the kind that makes you check your thermostat, ran down my trousers. What was this Foti doing here? Had I accidentally stumbled into a low-budget occult film? Was this some kind of twisted Airbnb gimmick? Fear, that unwelcome house guest, settled into my socks. I snatched the pitcher with the grace of a clumsy caveman and retreated back to my room, locking the door with the conviction of someone who's watched The Shining too many times. I'd wait for my mummy to return from the Cowdenbeath Bingo Hall. She could handle this. She once negotiated a better price on a used Hoover. Minutes stretched into an eternity, each tick of the clock a tiny hammer blow to my proverbial. Then, a knock. I practically levitated off the bed, my heart doing the Lambeth walk. Mum, my saviour. I flung open the door, ready to launch into a tearful monologue about the horrors of pissing myself. But it wasn't her. Standing there, bathed in the eerie glow of the hallway light, was a little boy. Think Damien from The Omen, but with a slightly more unsettling haircut. He was still, silent, pale, like he'd been binge-watching Dexter for a week straight. His eyes were dark, hollow, and filled with something that looked suspiciously like boredom, and his fingers bleeding, freshly cut, like he'd been practicing the banjo for a week solid. He just stared at me, radiating an aura of profound indifference. I was speechless, frozen. My brain, usually a well-oiled wool hat, had seized up entirely. Then, without a word, the boy turned and legged it down the hallway toward the basement. It was as if he wanted me to follow him, which, let's be honest, was a silly idea. But my daftness, that insatiable beast, got the better of me. We both descended into the basement, the air growing more brass monkeys with each step. The light dimmed to the point where I could barely see my hand in front of my polo neck. At the far end of the room, the boy stopped in front of a massive, rusted metal chest. The boy raised a trembling hand and pointed behind me. I turned, because, that's what you should do. In the darkest corner of the basement stood a shadow, tall, twisted, watching, menacingly, like a disgruntled accountant. Then it moved. The shadow began to shift, unraveling its form until it twisted into something monstrous, something inhuman. It was Jeffrey Archer. It defied both logic and good taste. Terror, the kind that makes you consider moving to Skye and living off pot noodles, surged through me. I turned to run, but Jeffrey was too fast. He lunged. I screamed, panting, shaking, sweating. In one hand, he was brandishing his latest bestseller. I lost consciousness.